Good morning, my friends. Just thought I'd give you a nice little look at my view for the day. So today let's talk power. As you know, on my hit list for this year was to upgrade my battery storage. I can draw 1200 watts through my inverter, and I had a 100 amp hour lithium battery. It was an Enerdrive, and that's been fine up to this point. And I was planning on doing the upgrade for my power later in the year, but I may have, anyway, caused a situation for myself where I had to get it done now. So anyway, the battery that I had was great. I was living a van life up to this point where I was pretty much moving every day in the van. So I would be going to the gym to shower, I'd be going to get food, visit people, just traveling Australia, just pretty much moving every day. I wasn't doing any camping as such, so I wasn't going off remote and just staying in one location for a period of time. But as you know from my previous videos, this is something I'm really wanting to do more this year, is go more remote and spend time in campgrounds. And I have absolutely been loving that this year. I have only done it a few times, but gosh, it's so good. So on my recent trip down south, I was parked up for, I think I'd been there a couple of days, and I had already done a trip into town and come back in. But the last day I was there, I just wasn't ready to move. I was having such a peaceful time, and life's been really chaotic this year for me. So I was really enjoying just sitting and being, and I just wanted to do that for another couple of hours. So I knew I was running the gauntlet. I was keeping an eye on my battery level on my app. And anyway, I was thinking that 30% was the cutoff so lithium batteries will just sort of kill themselves at a certain point. So, and then you've got to sort of wake them up again. Because I don't want the battery level to get too low. Anyway, so it got to 35% and it cut out. So I was like, oh, bugger, I only got myself to blame. Anyway, I went to jumpstart it. So I normally jumpstart my house battery from my starter battery to wake it up, and I know that's not ideal. But anyway, that's the only way I can do it. I did hear someone say you can have a button on the battery. Anyway, I didn't have that option. So I tried to jumpstart it, which I've done a few times, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't jumpstart. So I obviously have all this food in my fridge, and I work from my van, so it was something I had to sort. So I was down sort of Margaret River way, and I had to drive back to Perth anyway. So I stopped in at an Auto Sparky in Vass, which is sort of between Dunsborough, just sort of outside of Dunsborough, just sort of north of Dunsborough. And he was really helpful. He gave me some advice, and he said, you probably you might be able to salvage it. Just you would need to stay on a lithium charger overnight for 24 hours to see if it'll wake up again, because it had no charge when he tested it. And I sat there and thought about it, and I thought, well, maybe this is just a sign from the universe to just bite the bullet and get the upgraded battery. Or maybe I unconsciously, subconsciously did it to myself so that I could get more power, because it was really starting to bother me. That was the only thing about being off grid. I can make my water last, I can make my food last, but the power was the one thing really bothering me. So I thought, bugger it, I'm just going to get a new battery. I'm going to get a big one. Now, I store my battery and my inverter behind my front seat, so the challenge was to find a battery that would fit in that section. And I had created a little wooden shelf section so that my inverter could sit on that above the battery. So I went to Battery World in Busselton, and the gentleman there was really, really helpful. Just took me through a bunch of questions that I had. And they had one battery in stock that was a 200 amp hour, and I had sort of thought about, so obviously I'm so naive. I really knew nothing about batteries. So I didn't even realize sorry if it seems like a stupid thing to point out, but the more storage you want in a battery, the actual battery size physically gets bigger and bigger. I didn't realize that, and I'm just going to point that out to anybody that doesn't understand that. So the 200 amp hour, they actually were a bit more slimline than the 100 amp hour, but that were longer. So I went with a Volt Go Elite Series 200 amp hour battery, and I took all the measurements, and I thought, okay, that might fit. So I thought, oh, I'm just going to buy that, take it back to the Sparky. But the people at Battery World said, no, we can put it in for you. And I was like, oh, okay. So they did that no charge. And I did help the gentleman because it wouldn't fit in the rack storage that I had created. So I quickly got out my handsaw, cut off a couple of legs, and then pulled out a few little screws and things, and they were super helpful. They wound up, they put the battery in there, and I helped him because it was a bit fiddly. I didn't want to leave him, to do it on his own. Just an extra set of hands to hold things. It was a bit difficult with the inverter on top. That's really heavy. So then they also kept my old battery there and charged that overnight to see if they could get that going again, because I could sell that, get a bit of money back. So I originally paid $1,000 for my original battery at 100 amp hour Ever Energive. That was I'm sure it was about $1,000. And then this 200 amp hour from Volt Go was $1,800. Now the guy said it actually has a built-in fireproof system. So if it does start to overheat or it catches fire or something, it has a foaming thing inside there. I don't know. I did try and look that up online. I couldn't say anything about it, but that's pretty cool. It also has a button on there, so I can wake it up if it does get down too low, that'll just make my life easier. Not that I should worry about that now, because I have all this extra power stored in my battery. So anyway, they were amazing. They did that. They put that in. They've charged the other battery up for me, and they've given me a call a couple of days later and said, yeah, it's still fine. So they may be able to sell that secondhand for me. Otherwise, I'll go and pick it up and just sell that myself. But I did want to take it back to the Sparky who'd originally helped me, because even though we'd installed the battery and wired it up, it wasn't working, and I did want a Sparky just to check everything. So I went back to this gentleman, and I will link all these people's details below, because I'm always about giving you guys, when I receive good service from someone, I really want to promote that to other people, because people don't have to go out of their way to help you, so it's just really nice when they do. So yeah, I took it back to that Sparky, and he had 2 apprentices there, and you let them go in there, and then he comes out and he goes, oh, did they test the battery before they gave it to you? And I'm like, oh God. This has just been my life lately. One thing flows and then something goes wrong. Anyway, it's life. Nothing. If everything was perfect, we'd be bored. Anyway, as he's asking me these questions, one of the apprentices says, oh, we've got something. And so that button I was just talking about, whether that battery just goes to sleep sitting on the shelf or not, but we just needed to press that button in to get it going again, wake it up. So he checked all of that, and then I went in to pay him, because he did all this on the spot. I didn't book anything in. And he's like, oh, no, I can't charge you for that. And I know it was a really quick job, but there were 3 of them looking at it all. That's still time and energy. And I'd been in and out a couple of times that day asking questions. I said, oh, look, come on, I have to pay you. And he goes, no, sometimes it's not about the money. It's about helping people. Gets me emotional, repeating those words. That's so beautiful. How gorgeous is that? Anyway, it blew me away. So I go and give people 5-star reviews as well online if they've been really helpful, because it costs me nothing to do that. So yeah, what an amazing man. And I will link their details below. So yeah, that was amazing. And I originally, when I started using the new battery, it was actually still drawing the same amount of power. So I'd boil my kettle, and that would normally take about 4 or 5% of my battery. It was still doing that. So then I was like, well, what's going on here? So I rang Battery World, and they weren't quite sure. And he did say something about the app and the shunt. So I have a Victron Connect app, and that's the I think it's a shunt, they call it, which is something to do with, how it monitors the battery levels. I'm really sorry, I don't know all this technical term. So anyway, I thought, oh, maybe it's just my app. So I sort of Googled and I updated the app, and I found online that you actually need to calibrate your app so that it's recognising the new details of the new battery. So I had to change it on my app to a 200 amp hour battery, not a 100 hour one. So I did that, and now that's all working fine. However, one thing works, another thing goes. So now my fridge is not working. I am not sure. I haven't got an answer for that one yet. I don't know what's going on there. It runs off DC power, and it is a second-hand Engel fridge, and I got it last year. Yeah, last year from Cairns. I don't know what is going on there. I'm not sure, like maybe when I tried to jump start that battery, potentially I actually forgot to turn my fridge off. So when you're jump starting things, you should try and make sure everything is off. I hadn't turned my inverter off. I hadn't turned my fridge off. No one to blame but myself. So I am wondering if I've done something to, like, blown a fuse or something. So the fridge is turning on, and there's a slight coolness in there, but it's certainly not cooling. Like, my butter is not solid. I've had to defrost the freezer. Anyway, so I've plugged it into 240 now. I'm going to leave that for a few hours. I don't think it's cooling anymore, so I might have to take that to a Friggy to see if they can have a look at it. It might just be the thermostat or a fuse, something simple. I got to be honest, I just don't have the energy to work that out myself. I'm really done with all that. So I'm engaging the help of others now. So I think it depends on what sort of van life you want to live as to what power setup that you have. If you are living more of a van life where you're still in cities and you're moving around every day, you probably don't need too much. If you are looking at more like remote camping, then I would probably go minimum 200 amp hour. If I could fit more, I would. I think that if I was to go to a 300, even if I could find the space for that battery, I may then need to start re-looking at my wiring. So I didn't realise that with wiring, it's kind of like the same as a water pipe. You know, depending on the amount of power coming through it, you're going to need different size wiring. And I'm really sorry if I'm pointing out the obvious to anyone here. And I think I kind of worked that out a little bit when my fridge went last time. So when I bought this vehicle, the DC power had already been set up. The fridge that I had, it was an Evercool, I think, like a pull-out one. That was all of a sudden one day started going cold and hot, cold and hot. And when I took it into a Friggy, I wound up looking at the switchboard from the inside, and one of the power cords had burnt out. So I was actually really lucky that the fridge stopped working properly, because it alerted me to that. So I think it is important just to check your wiring occasionally to make sure that it still looks okay, because that can start a fire. So yeah, I was kind of glad. Sometimes when things happen, it's a bit of a blessing from the universe. So I had been checking my wiring, and yeah, I just thought I'd better point that out to people. Keep an eye on that. So yes, I do still wonder, you know, if given my time again, would I get one of those portable systems like a Bluetti or something? Because I have the biggest expense I've probably had in the van has all been electrical stuff, and it's just something that I'm not confident in. So I don't really want to, you know, take that time to learn it and play with it, because it is something that can cause damage. So it's not something I really want to play around with, and it's expensive to get electricians, and understandably, you know, they're trained and, you know, have experience in their field. So anyway, I hope that all this information has been helpful to you. If you've got any comments or questions, please put them in the comments section below. Have a great day.